welcome you again. So we just had amazing guests from Ireland to explain to us why it is worth engaging, why it is worth sending those connections, why it is worth speaking with people you share a similar story with. But now we go to how, because we want to understand how different diasporas are engaged, or how different Polish diasporas are engaged all over the world. With us, we have great guests from all over the world. We have Eva Hussein from Australia, who is the CEO of Polaron, the European citizenship company. The next one, we have the US with Magdalena Jaworowicz, who is the co-founder of Polish Professional Women in Silicon Valley. From Europe, we have two great guests. We have Adam Formanek, the Senior Partner Manager at Digital Agency Berlin from Germany. And also from Poland, we have Sebastian Tyrakowski, the Deputy Director at the Emigration Museum in Gdynia. So what we're going to do right now, because we've worked with the Museum of Immigration in Gdynia, Sebastian, we're going to present the results of our research projects on the Polish technological diaspora all over the world. And to be honest with you, I can't wait for the results. I've read the last year reports. This year was very recently published, I think a few weeks ago. So you're going to have some really fresh insights for us today. Yeah, can you hear us? Okay, so in this case, what I'll do, I'll ask you to mute your video, and I'll also leave the room, and then you'll be able to share your screen.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you can see the screen and the slides. Thank you, Kuba. Thank you for this introduction. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you again for this invitation. What I wanted to do today is to share with you information about a research project which the Emigration Museum and Plugin Foundation delivered jointly over the last couple of years. It's called E-Migration Polish Technological Diaspora, and it was started back in 2018. Just to give you some background information about the project. The main reason why the project was started was because we didn't really know much information about the Polish technological diaspora. We didn't know what were their key locations in terms of living and working. We didn't know what were their jobs and professions, what were their challenges and needs, what were the plans in terms of cooperating with Poland and potential returns to Poland. And we were actually approached by the Plugin Foundation, who initiated this project, and said that the technological diaspora needed to be mapped, analyzed, and researched. So what you see today is an actual response to the need of the target group. Now, this project is addressed to specific target groups, and these are Polish immigrants and people with Polish roots. Polish transmigrants, expats, and modern nomads who work abroad. And this project was addressed to highly qualified employees, representatives of the Polish technological diaspora that work in modern sectors of economy. And these are, for example, IT, finances, entertainment, arts, media, but also sciences, big data, mobile games, startups, etc. And I must say that it was quite a big challenge to reach to the target groups. And again, a big thank you to Plugin for helping us doing it. Because when we approached the target group, what they heard from us were two keywords. First was a museum, and the second was an immigrant. And that meant something wrong to them. They automatically thought it's a wrong address. And they should not be filling out their survey. In terms of the the research objectives that we focused on. Some were similar in this edition and to the previous edition, and some were new. We focused on the profile of an emigrant. So who is the Polish technological diaspora? We focused on their experiences, history, on their relationships, both social and professional. What's the sense of identity with the diaspora representatives? We also asked about questions related to the cooperation with Poland, possible returns to Poland. We also analyzed what is the stereotype image of an immigrant generally, but there were also two new key themes in this year's edition, and that was the stereotype of a representative of a Polish technological diaspora, which is new. And because this edition took place during the COVID-19 pandemic, we also analyzed what was the life of the Polish technological diaspora during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in terms of the key findings, I think we can divide them into three groups. There are data which is similar to the previous edition. There are data which are different, but they are different because this edition was undertaken during the pandemic, and it cannot be analyzed like one-to-one with the previous survey. And we have new data, which is a kind of a warning signal to us, and it means that there is the gap between the Polish technological diaspora and Poland is unfortunately getting bigger and bigger. In terms of the key motivators for leaving Poland, for Polish technological diaspora, it still stays the same, and that is not money, basically. It's still the curiosity to desire to learn more about the world. It's personal and professional development, and it's basically non-salary related items that remain the most important. So we're talking about work culture, work ethics, the way the teams and the companies are managed. We're talking about optimization between work-life balance, and also the opportunity to take on new challenges. So non-economic items remain most at the top of the agenda. If we look at the profile of an immigrant, of a Polish technological diaspora, these are typically young and middle-aged people, just under 50. Very well educated, mostly represented by the IT sector. That's 40% of the respondents, but also the vast majority come from the financial sector. If we look at the youngest representatives, so these under 30, they come primarily from the IT and the startup sector, and also from the biotechnological sector. And if we analyze what are their jobs, the main jobs, it's the project managers, team managers, programmers, analysts. So these are the key. This is the profile of a technological diaspora member. If we look at the data in terms of the occupational status, the leisure time, and social life, now we see a little decrease in here. But we think that the decrease in occupational status, the way that the leisure time was spent in social life, that's a decrease because of the COVID-19 pandemic, because we see an increase here in the family relations by 4% compared to the previous edition. But generally speaking, in terms of professional lives, the immigrants view the changes in their professional lives during the pandemic times as something positive, because the lockdown was a time of professional development. It was a time of stabilization. It was an opportunity to work completely remotely. So that meant more flexibility, more time to spend with the families, less stress, no need to commute every day. So there were a lot of advantages and the respondents underlined in terms of the life during the COVID-19 pandemic. If we look at the data associated with willingness to cooperate with Poland, now we see here a decrease, and that's the data that I mentioned before. That's a kind of a warning signal for us. We see a lower willingness to cooperate with Poland, but the immigrants are still very much interested in building a positive image of Poland abroad. There is an openness to cooperate with Polish companies, Polish NGOs, Polish institutions, Polish universities. But if we analyzed this openness closely, and that was during the interviews, there was a very there was a certain level of septimism based on their negative experiences. We'll probably talk about this more during our discussion. But if we look at these figures, the immigrants are very much interested in building a positive image and to working with Polish institutions. However, if we look at the data that correspond directly to the willingness to return to Poland, now we see a significant decline in here in the 2018 edition. This was nearly 50% of the respondents. Now we see 36%. So it's a significant decrease in numbers, and the three main factors why the respondents gave. First of all, there was the political situation in Poland, which are not. They don't recognize themselves with the current situation in Poland, the economic situation, and also the quality of life. The quality of life was something that was very highly underlined in their responses. We're talking here about climate change, about the quality of life, about various non-economical aspects. So that was very, very much underlined in the responses. In terms of incentives for immigrants, obviously there are some, but they don't really much to the Polish technological diaspora, because nearly 72% of responders have not heard of them, so they're not very effective. And if they heard of them, they would probably have no impact on their decisions. So that's a very strong signal and a message to some mechanisms that are in place, and they're obviously not effective. But there are some factors which the immigrants of the Polish technological diaspora would take into consideration if they were willing to come back to Poland, and these were tax reliefs, 37%, concessions for running a business, for example, 33% of the respondents, and 26% access to the job market for family members. So you can see still an openness to these kind of factors, but generally the gap between the country and the willingness to cooperate, unfortunately, is getting bigger and bigger. So that's a very strong message from the report. What we also analyzed, something new in this edition, was a stereotype of a typical representative of a Polish technological diaspora. And what came out was that the typical stereotypical representative is usually a male, a programmer who's very well educated, with a very high level of experience, a specialist in his field, intelligent, ambitious, very reliable, hardworking. But the real image of the representative of Polish technological diaspora is very much different, because if we look at the gender split, it's almost 50-50, and it was the same in the previous edition. If we look at the occupation and the jobs, IT sector is of course the biggest sector, but we see a very broad spectrum of the jobs and of the sectors from which the representatives of the Polish technological diaspora come from. So it's certainly not a male and a programmer only. I think this is very difficult to summarize the report in 10 minutes, because it's very broad and very detailed. I think we will have a chance to discuss it more during the discussion, and perhaps afterwards. The report is available on our website and on the conference website, on the Plugins Foundation website. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity to present the report and the data to you, and I'll be very happy to discuss it more in detail during our discussion. So thank you, and over to you, Kuba.
Fantastic. Sorry, it seems like I was looking for a button to share my screen. To broadcast myself. I am so sorry for that. But absolutely, thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you very much for the results. To be honest with you, it is quite interesting, especially all the slides are interesting, but the last one, the 50-50 split, is also quite a surprise, because there is an image or the idea of somebody who is emigrating from Poland. But as we speak, we're going to have a conversation on different diasporas all over the world. We actually have a 50-50 split here. So maybe stereotypes one thing and the reality is something else. Let me open the panel discussion on the topic I really want to start, which is your communities, your diasporas. Of course, Sebastian, you mentioned the technological diaspora. There are many others, let's say, industry diasporas. The conference we have right now is about technology, about innovation, about entrepreneurship, also about business, and these business experts, leaders we have right now with us. So let me open with Eva, because you're from Australia. Just out of curiosity, what time is it right now in Australia?
It is nearly 7 p.m. Kuba.
Because the moment we go to Magdalena, it might be midnight in Silicon Valley. It will be quite funny. So Eva, can you tell us something, first of all, about your business, but also about your community? Because you are not only the CEO and founder of Polaron, which a company that helps whoever has Polish roots to become a Polish/EU citizen, but also every week, if I remember correctly, you go live on Facebook with chats, with fireside chats, with interviews with local leaders of Polish communities all over the world. So if you could tell us something about yourself and about this activity.
Sure, thank you, Kuba. Firstly, I'm everywhere, and I've learned through COVID that if they don't want you coming through the door, you're coming through the window. Which is what I kind of have been doing, because, when COVID hit in Australia, and we are quite fortunate here that there isn't much of it, we all kind of froze. So as a business owner, I can't say that I panicked, but it was, the lockdown and everything else was kind of reminiscent of the times that I grew up in Poland, which was 1980s, and we were not allowed to go out and all kinds of things that did not resonate well with the Polish community, let me tell you. So what do? You pivot, as they call it, and you become agile, and whatever the newest words we've got that we can use. But essentially, let me take you back to what I do. So I immigrated to Australia in 1985. So I've lived here for a long, long time. So I consider myself the old Polonia, as we call them. And what does that mean? In Australia here, there are several waves of immigrants, I guess. So you have the people that consider themselves Polish for generations, or they might be second, third, fourth, fifth generation. There are those that came here after the war. There are those that came here in early 80s, and there's trickles of people that, before the pandemic, they were coming here, mostly young professionals. So what I'm describing is a very diverse community that isn't, we don't all meet up for Sunday lunch and, sing Stolat, that just doesn't happen. And everyone's got slightly different ideas about what it means to be Polish and how we connect. So the Polish diaspora here in Australia is quite small. We've got just under 50,000 people. So compared to the States, where Magdalena's from, for example, that's nothing, like a drop in the ocean. And nobody really knows how many people of Polish background there are in Australia. It is estimated about 150,000. So quite some time ago, so this is 21 years ago, actually, I set up this company, which initially started as an interpreting and translating bureau. And then just before Poland entered the European Union, there was a lot of interest in regaining Polish citizenship. So this is what we do as our core business. What you said, Kuba, is correct. We connect people with their heritage. We help them reclaim citizenship. And it's interesting, right? Because when I was leaving, everybody wanted to leave Poland. Well, maybe not everybody, but many people did. And now many people want to be Polish. And that's what I do for a job. And it's something that I love doing. And I say, if you have the right to reclaim your Polish citizenship, go for it. So for people, it's not just about a passport. It's more about their identity. Once upon a time in America, there were Polish jokes. You wouldn't admit that you were Polish. You had to kind of assimilate. Things have changed, and they've changed a lot. So my job really is to be everywhere, as I said, and connect people. I'm a great networker. I'm not ashamed to admit it, although it doesn't come naturally. I'm a very modest kind of, we used to be told, just sit there in the corner, don't say anything, they'll find you, or whatever the translation of that is. But I've learned that you can't do that, that you have to speak up, that you have to be everywhere, and there you go.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely love it. And again, as I said, I'll be quite boring reminding everyone to network today, but come on, this event is for you. You already invested your time and energy. And as I have all of you here, not only speakers, but people from all over the world that watch us, definitely connect with each other. We go right now back to Europe, to Adam Formanek. Please tell us something about yourself. I know that we work together already because we are Polish Tech Day. You co-organize Polish Tech Nights in Berlin. I'm pretty sure that there was an image of an immigrant in Germany. However, it's quite likely long gone, considering that in Berlin you have a very, very big Polish technological diaspora, isn't it?
Which is quite recent. Yeah, thank you, Cuba, for inviting me. And I can actually totally relate to what is Eva saying, that a lot of Polish people in Berlin, the Polish community is actually the second biggest community in Berlin after the Turkish one. So we have 100,000 Polish people of Polish background, Polish heritage. And, Germany was an immigration country for Polish, since the end of 60s and the 70s, because of different historical reasons of the immigrants. And this tendency actually just accelerated in the 80s because of West Berlin, where the Polish embassy is now. There was the military mission of Allied forces of West Berlin, so Polish citizens were actually allowed to travel to West Berlin without any visa restrictions. So it was the first entry point to the Western world to immigrate, remain there. So it was just the biggest diaspora actually was created already in the 80s. Then the 90s came, so when Germany was unified, and actually this tendency went somewhere else. People started just immigrating to all over the world. And in the 2004, at the beginning of 2004, when I first came to Berlin to study, and it was actually a choice made by chance. I didn't even plan to come to Germany because I didn't speak very well German at all. Berlin was kind of a off the beaten track experience. I mean, people were fascinated with the United Kingdom, going to study at Harvard University. Those ones who had money, of course, who were applying for, different scholarships from different Fulbright associations, and applying for different scholarships in the United Kingdom. And Germany and Berlin had a little bit of this underground feeling. So there was this German-Polish university in Frankfurt Oder and Słubice, which was attracting a lot of the students. All of them were actually living in East Berlin. It was the club scene, etc. And the end of 2000 years, the first technological startups starting appearing on the landscape of Berlin, which was an economical desert at that time. It was the black hole of the German economy, which was actually not attracting anyone, but attractive creative people. And this technological hub, which was created more or less 10, 11 years ago, started attracting people, and people started seeing Berlin, hey, we've got a big metropolitan area of 4 million people, which is actually straight ahead 70 kilometers from the border, which is 1.5 hour drive from Stettin, which is actually 3 hours drive from Wrocław. So people started seeing as an extremely nice opportunity to enter the big German market, maybe the market, the so-called DACH market, which is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and started seeing it as a good opportunity to show up on meetups, to come to different accelerators, and started seeing as a quite cheap, relatively cheap capital for cost of living compared to Sydney, compared to San Francisco. Still, we can't really compare. Of course, everything got much more pricey in the last years because also the tech is coming up to Berlin, but still, compared to San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and in both of the cities in Sydney, I lived 1 year and I really enjoyed it ever. So just big hello to us down under, missing it very much. But we can still really have an affordable, excellent life in Berlin with a lot of opportunities, being the center of Europe. So this technological Polish diaspora started really developing very quickly. People started moving recently as well. And in my previous jobs, like as you mentioned, I was organizing with a lot of amazing people like Eva, Ula, Anya, and Tobias, and Joanna at the Polish Tech Night, which was like a sister event, actually inspired, of course, by you, by Polish Tech Day, and we didn't want to steal the name because you were in London and we didn't know how to participate together at that.
But that was a very good cooperation, because you could be in the morning at Polish Tech Day and then fly to Berlin for Polish Tech Night.
It was a kind of his joke idea for the name. Let's have a Polish Tech Night about it. So some of you appeared to that. We organized 4 editions of them. After that, each of us had some private reasons to develop in any other direction. So we didn't continue this amazing experience, but it was an amazing time with all of his great people. And as we saw, I had this project of coordination Polish IT with German companies for 5 years, and I could strictly relate that a lot of people were moving to Berlin for this reason, what Sebastian was mentioning in this report, in this survey. And a lot of people I had the pleasure to work with also, like during organization of Startup Grind in Warsaw and during my projects during Polish Tech Night, moved recently again to Berlin. Some people from Krakow, some people from Warsaw, to some mobility companies, to some accelerators, and with a variety of different projects. So this survey shows me exactly what is the point. There's 50-50. I could agree about it. And as I can only highlight that they're amazing people, very well skilled, very open. And this image of a Polish, let's call it expat, as the British pretty much do that, of its Polish expats, that they are actually very curious and open to have some new experience, are treating Berlin as a very short distance, as a nice neighborhood just to live not far away from Poland.
No, absolutely. And of course, because Berlin's, it's quite close. I'm from Wrocław, so I was always a place which you could simply go within 3 hours. I wouldn't be able to go within 3 hours to San Francisco, I imagine, to Silicon Valley. Magda, when I first read about your organization, I just thought I must invite you, simply because I think that your story is also not only very important, but also very important to share and show that you created a grassroots organization which is called Polish Professional Women in Silicon Valley. If you could tell us more about it, because I think that we should support such smaller initiatives. I say smaller because you're still growing. You are only 2 years old, but we wish that you will just grow and expand as big as you only want.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kuba. Thank you for inviting me. As you mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Polish Professional Women of Silicon Valley, and it's a 2 years old organization, as you mentioned. So we are still growing. We have about 100 members and a team of 10 people working every day on developing this organization. And just to give you a context of this situation, what we face every day is that here in California, there is no Polish district. There is no consistent Polish community that you could easily join when you come here. So it's very different from East Coast, when, for instance, in New York or in Chicago, you can simply go to there and experience somehow, Polish culture, you can hear Polish language, you can somehow feel this Polish spirit. It's nothing like this here, and my own situation is also a good example of the situation of San Francisco Bay Area. When I moved here, I didn't even think about connecting with anyone. I was very focused on my personal career development. I was transferred within my company at that time. So I didn't even have time to think about any additional activities. So after some time, after 1 year of being here, together with Joanna Lorenz, we co-founded this organization to give people a safe space, to give people kind of inspiration to gather together and to talk about professional topics, to share knowledge that we all have,
Mm-hmm.
to share experience, to inspire each other, and to create a network of like-minded Polish professionals who want to develop themselves, who want to create this kind of amazing synergy, to encourage each other to overcome challenges and to learn more, to get new
Yes.
skills.
This is something very interesting because I remember from our conversations before this call, I think that what's quite unique about your organization, and it might be something that it is with other organizations, is that we are no longer, I mean, I imagine that right now Polish Diasporas, Polish organizations like that are no longer or not as much longer connected just a group of people with the same passport, which was important in the past. But right now, it's more about one goal, because in your organization, you simply create a network of people who share the knowledge, who share the energy, who help other people to grow, which I think is quite healthy, and I think it's quite good. So I imagine that you must have some successes here. I know that you organize some meetings. If you could tell us more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for this question, Kuba. Yes, actually, we offer special programs. One of our flagship program is the Day in the Life of, and we invite our members, actually, because that's the idea, that the knowledge is within our group already. There is just no enough time to share it. So we give the space to our experts, our guests, who over this meeting share their experience from different reputable companies from Silicon Valley. So we had guests from LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, and those are our members. So by this, I mean that we can also talk openly, more casual, and we share all the challenges and ups and downs very openly, and we teach each other in that sense. So
that's fantastic. It's exactly what I think we should be aiming for. No, absolutely. I think that's something positive. And I will just right now the other way around. I'll start with Adam, then Eva, and then I would love to have a comment from Sebastian.
Sure.
Because let's be honest, I mean, Polish diaspora should be about support, should be about motivation, energy, etc. It's not always the case. We don't want to do the only positive sides here. I would love to, although there is a reason why some people engage in your own diasporas, in this case, of course, Polish. There is also a reason why people don't engage, because it's not always positive. I'm really happy and I'm really privileged in a way that I am in a room of people who have energy, who want to share the network and the knowledge for free, and we don't really want anything out of it. I mean, exactly as the previous speaker, Kingsley, said, I believe that this is how we can not only grow our network, but also grow personally. Why people engage in diaspora in Berlin, in Germany, or why people don't engage? I just wonder if you could share some of your insights about that.
It's a dynamic world, actually. Like, people engage a lot in Berlin. I mean, I'm talking about times pre-COVID times, yeah, because at the moment Germany is quite in a lockdown mode since last year. So actually last week things started opening up. So we were kind of like only related to Zoom calls and Cisco calls, WebEx calls, and etc. So people before that, Berlin had a lot of amazing startups going to different meetups. There was a lot of acceleration. There were a lot of hubs who are offering a lot of meet and mingle opportunities, a lot of conferences. And in my previous jobs, which was the Association of IT and Digital Business in Berlin and of startups, we were offering a lot of tickets also to various conferences. So I was also inviting like partners from Poland to that. And like a lot of people were taking the chance and the opportunity to come up. I mean, it was a short trip. So people were just coming to different conferences. They could catch up. And when we started seeing the open culture, there were so many nationalities nationalities around here. Nobody cared where you're coming from, but we were just asking about what you're doing, which round of investments are you having, which startups are you working. People were shifting, changing. There's this pivotal atmosphere about that. And there was this excellent initiative, and there still exists, of Ula Lachowicz about Polish Berlin Tech, and people started to catch up. And there was a lot of other initiatives which actually took place, even with some partners from Poland who started organizing regular meetups here in Berlin. So there was a little bit of this community feeling definitely already growing, about appearing, about showing up in Berlin. Hey, here I am as well. So it's part of this international startup and technological scene. But at the same time, I have to mention there's great people already from this, let's call this old Polish diaspora here, who are just doing a great job in terms of culture, of connecting people, and also working for local authorities. I'm also working for one of these digital agencies, which is actually part of a government, of a local government of Berlin. There's such amazing people like Kasia working for Berlin Partner, who is actually the coordinator of a fintech hub and IoT hub. There's Marta in the local Department of Economy, who is actually coordinating all the projects along the Polish border with Berlin, which has the economical dimension. There is an excellent team with Eva about the Wrocław Berlin culture training. So there's people involved also in this the Association of the Future of Berlin, which has a special group dedicated to Polish projects, which has also Germans, which involves Germans involved in this transnational cooperation, invite people just to meet and mingle around that. So there's a lot of reasons to integrate, and at the same time, you know, we know all our national disadvantages from Poland. We were not taught in our country to be team players, not at all. Absolutely. So first of all, when we just go outside abroad and we see suddenly people just want to collaborate with us, we're just asking why? What do they want from me? My kidney? It's just like, they actually don't. They just share the knowledge with us. They just can't tend to be nice. So like once you actually learn this Anglo-Saxon way of the small talk, of just sharing your experiences, which is also actually a very difficult thing to share your experiences in an open way in Germany. Let's be honest, it's not the easiest culture to be an open person as well, but still there is this kindness and openness of fostering a healthy entrepreneurship, of just giving somebody the contact and the experience I didn't have, but I would be pleased to know that. It's something that I'm trying to share with everyone coming to Berlin, give some advices, because it's not that I'm gonna lose something out of it. And you know, what you give, you're gonna get back. That's it.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. And I'm really pleased that you mentioned that. Yes, we weren't taught in schools how to be team players and how to connect with each other. I think that's something that still needs to be improved. But that's exactly why it is so fascinating to work with and meet Polish diaspora all over the world, because to be honest with you, I don't know, maybe one day I will come back to Poland, or maybe I'm not. And I think that everyone should have a free choice to actually decide where they want to be. At the same time, if we create our own space, which is open, which is inclusive, which is about supporting each other, not only about taking advantage from somebody else, it's something that's definitely missing, and that's definitely missing also, which was showed up in the survey, which Sebastian said, because it's not only about money, it's also about the working conditions and the way how we cooperate. Before we go to the comment on that, Eva, you said you're a modest person, and you said that networking is something you have to learn. I really want to know more about your network, simply because I know that what you're doing is engaging people who discover to be Polish, and also to learn Polish, then apply for Polish a Polish passport. What's quite interesting is that what do you tell them about Poland? And I'm really happy that I know that some of your clients are also here, because we want to show them that there are different Polish diasporas, and that's good to have the old one, and at the same time it's good to create a space for the new one, because I think that was missing, and I'm really pleased that we can just create this space.
Look, I'll tell you what, Kuba, most people that I know have a love-hate relationship with Poland, especially at the moment, because you read stuff in the news that you don't really understand. Well, I don't understand. It's not the Poland that I left behind, and it would be difficult for it to be the Poland I left behind, given I left, 36 years ago. But what I mean by that is that I think there's a lot of trauma actually in our community, and a lot of desire to belong, which is quite difficult for people to achieve, because I'm sitting here in Melbourne thinking, am I Polish enough? Who said that I can speak on behalf of the entire community or whatever, so all kinds of things like that go through your head. And there's this maybe sense of guilt. Immigration is not the easiest thing to do. Like if somebody told me 36 years ago, I'm going to go through this, would I do it? Probably not. I left the country where it was struggling. I carried a sense of guilt of perhaps I should have stayed and rolled up my sleeves or whatever. So people, particularly from second, third generation, never feel Polish enough, or they feel too Polish or whatever. It's a strange space to be. And what I say to them is, look, nobody knows what's in your head. Nobody knows what's in your heart. I give you the right to be Polish as you want to be, right? And that certainly means different things to different people. So for some people, that means, Christmas traditions. For others, it means, where they work, where they travel, who they are as people. So I think that sense of connection is somewhere out there, but it's really difficult to elicit and connect people at a genuine level because we're not homogenous. Everyone carries their own story and experiences. Certainly I do. So the networks I'm involved in, and I've tried for many years, and it's really hard work to be part of the Polish community, let me tell you, in Australia, not because it's a difficult community in particular, but we are pretty ambitious. We're hard on ourselves, we're hard on others, and we want everything high quality, whatever that means as well. So I think I've had, a few attempts at volunteering, being parts of all kinds of organizations. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but I give it my best. And through those networks, you meet amazing people, as you've already mentioned, and those that can really contribute to your growth, people that can mentor you or people that you can mentor. So it's a bit of, give and take. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think it's everyone's individual journey, and it's not going to be always a happy picture because, we're no different than other communities. It's not a homogeneous sort of happy family. What do they say? The best time that anybody, what's that? Family and photos, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's a Polish saying. So it's a little bit like that, I guess, in some sense. But, I've traveled around the world. I've been to London. I've been to New York. I've not yet been to San Francisco or Berlin, actually. But in the last few years, I've felt this sense of connection and sense of positivity, which is something that I really crave. Because Australians, for those of you that have been here, they made you happy. If you look behind the surface, it's not always like that. But that's what I crave from the Polish diaspora: the support, the sense of community, and that's what I'm about. Building bridges and connecting people.
Absolutely. I think, don't get me wrong, I'm really happy that we are so positive here. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to do a propaganda here of positiveness, because there are ups and downs as in every society, in every community, etc. But at the same time, I'm really happy that we're creating a space where we can share some of the motivation, simply because there are plenty of things that are going not the way we would like to. And if we have some little impact, we can have this impact within our community. Sebastian, this is actually a good question for you, because I've seen that slide from the report. Some members of the diaspora, regardless if they work in technology, innovation, business, entrepreneurship, you just name it, they connect, that they want to stay connected. Some of them, they don't. I remember that slides where the older you are, the more willing you are to connect. And simply, I wanted if you could comment on that. Again, because we don't want to force anyone to connect with us. It's not the idea. At the same time, I'm really happy we have this event in English, because we want to be inclusive and invite anyone who's interested in our diaspora. Could you comment on that, on why people connect, why people they don't connect? Because they must have some valid reasons.
It's very interesting to hear your different points of view, which are completely right. Well, what the reports shows is that basically the Polish communities are willing to connect with each other and with Poland. They're more willing to be, ambassadors. They're more willing to represent a good image of Poland, and rather than cooperate on a let's say economical basis or business basis. This is mainly due to what's has happened and what's happening in Poland now. But there are also some barriers why people don't want to connect, some challenges. And first of all, it's lack of time. Secondly, it's some bad experiences in the past. This is what the report clearly says. This is probably based on business experiences and on relationships on an economical level, low level of social capital. I think Adams mentioned some barriers in our mentality and basically the way we think. This is what the report has also recognized, and that there's a sense of feeling and worrying that the connectivity might only work in a one way only. It won't be a mutual cooperation. This is also what's discouraging. A level of bureaucracy and a level of barriers, with especially if we're talking about working with Polish institutions and some central bodies back at home. But also that there are some positive sides. I think the main, if you said that the more older we are, the more we want to connect. Magda mentioned in your speech that at the beginning you don't have time to connect. You're focused on your job. You're focused on your tasks. And that's right.
Development, which you also mentioned.
Yes, this is what you're working on your development, and the reports shows that as well. That the more you're into the society, then the more time you have to engage, to give your time, your skills. But at the same time, if we're talking about Polish technological diaspora, these are very these are people who are very. They know what they're worth, they know what their jobs are, and they know what their time is worth. So they are interested in consultancy, they are interested in transfer of knowledge, but it needs to be based on some clear foundations and some very clear rules. And at the moment, it's not there. The programs are not there. If we're talking about cooperation with Polish institutions and with Polish companies, they're not there. They're not there set centrally, certainly at central level, and this is clearly recognized by them. So we see this. I think from me to summarize, I'm very happy that this report came out and is being done on a regular basis, because I think in the planet we focused on the Polish technological diaspora. I think if we focused on a different target group, then these data would be completely different. But I think in the past, the media, and particularly the Polish media, focused, particularly after Poland joined the European Union, the media attention was focused far too much on and particularly in the UK, on people going to work and working in sectors where their skills were far too high to compare to the jobs that they were doing. And I think what this report shows, that there are many communities like the Polish technological diaspora sectors where people are very conscious of their skills, abilities. Absolutely. They are open to cooperate.
Absolutely. So I wanted to just say, as the last word, you mentioned something very important, which is trust. And I believe that I studied, actually, my degree was in political science. That's why I'm doing technology conferences right now. However, what I discovered when I was still a student is that what was missing in my country, which is Poland, is we don't trust each other. And that's why I believe it's something we should improve. Oh, not should, we could improve. I don't want to force anyone. And I'm really happy that we are sharing these insights, and I'm really happy that the organizations like yours in Berlin, in Australia, in in the US, where you just help personal development, where you just help people who shared the same story, but you gather up not because you have one passport, you gather up because you have one aim. And that's something I think which is great. We have to finish right now. I just got a message from my producer. We should be finishing. If you'd like to say one last word, or even like a half of a sentence, please do it right now. Adam, would you like to add anything?
I absolutely agree with you. Trust is the basics. Let's improve it. Let's develop some healthy entrepreneurial skills and just help each other instead of hating each other. So,
Perfect.
yeah, so it's a lot of...
No, absolutely.
Thank you for having.
Eva?
Okay, I will forever speak of Poland and Polish people in very positive terms because it makes me happy and everybody else happy. So yes, I know we have issues, but I think if we could all focus on what unites us, not divides us, and how to build bridges,
Magdalena,
we'd be all better for it.
Yes, so I would add that self-development, it's much more efficient when we can do it together. So synergy is everything, and together we can achieve more.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, especially as you are from the US, from Australia, from Germany, from Poland. I have to finish right now. That was a pleasure to welcome you here. And to the rest of the audience, enjoy the conference. This is for you, and see you later.
Thank you.